Well, we want to get to this top story. Newly released body cam video shows the moments before a deadly police-involved shooting in Newcastle County, Delaware.
Yeah, the video starts with officers. At one point, there's three that are behind the car here. They say they were out patrolling the area, investigating recent car thefts. So they approached 30-year-old Lamont Moses' vehicle there. He was sleeping in the vehicle. The car was turned on and the dome light is illuminated. Here it is. Again, there's no sound in the first 30 seconds when the officers turn on the cameras.
You're sleeping with the car and drive.
Bro, my mom live right here. Why are you walking up like...
You don't need to scream, man. We're just trying to help you out.
I'm okay. My mom live right here.
We're just out here, man, looking for stolen cars. We see you sleeping and you got weed sitting right there.
There's weed all over, man.
Bro, I'm not. My car not stolen.
Nobody said it was. We just said that's why we're out here. That's why we're out here. We're looking for stolen cars.
All right, well, my mom live right here.
I'm gonna just pull him out real quick.
No problem.
Hop out for me real quick, man.
Dude, don't. Just cooperate. Okay, this is very easy. If it's just weed, we don't get...
Reach, man. Just hop up real quick.
That's all it is.
Okay. Do me a favor. Just hop out for me, man.
I found my button. Just relax.
Yo. Yo. See, I'll keep that here. Myself, we're out with a suspicious vehicle, Rosemont Avenue, East 27. Just give us a 10 100 per second. Stop the car! Don't do it! Don't do it! Do it! Don't do it! Shots fired. Shots fired.
So we want to bring in attorney Shaka Johnson to talk about this. Now, a reminder, of course, that this was in January when this incident happened. And in January, police were saying that the car charged toward them, and that's when they began to fire. But now we have this video. What was your reaction, Shaka?
I was exceptionally disheartened and really sort of mortified at what I saw, especially with the backdrop, the context. In my mind, I had heard for the past 2 months that Mr. Moses had charged his vehicle toward police officers and they were using their firearms in protection of their lives, only to see on that video, once it was released, that that is in fact not what happened. And this is a repeat chorus. This is a popular refrain that's happening, Alex, all too frequently, where officers are documenting incidents one way, and then once video footage is released, we're seeing it completely different. This is another example. The most recent one, I suppose, would have been George Floyd, where officers said he was resisting, and then we saw different angles from footage in different ways that tended to disprove that. This is another example of that.
Well, the officials have known what's on that tape for 2 months, Shaka.
Yes, they have.
You know, because this happened in January, like you said. So 2 of the officers fired their service revolvers, right?
Yes.
And then there was a 3rd officer that came up on the scene. He did not shoot. I don't know why he didn't shoot. Maybe he has longer time on the force. But also another officer was in his line of, had he shot, he probably would have hit one of the officers. Maybe that's why he didn't. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. What I do know, Mike, in relationship to the question that you're asking right now specifically, is that the 2nd officer who fired his weapon, I think they just call him Officer 2, was nowhere near the vehicle. I mean, completely out of the path of that vehicle. He was really on the opposite side of the SUV when he went to firing his weapon. It was very noticeable to me that Mr. Moses made every attempt on, while fleeing, which is a crime, he made every attempt on veering his vehicle away from the officers, and it was obvious what he was trying to do was escape that dead-end block and not hit any police officers or injure anybody. That was
it was a dead-end street, like you said.
Yeah, correct.
And to get your opinion as a former police officer, former SWAT, what could have been done in that instance instead of what ended up happening? He was evading arrest. They did have him in a dead end, so he had to come out toward them if he was going to get out or get out
Sure.
of that area. What other scenarios or what other options could officers had if not that?
Alex, tactically, and whatever their department policy called for is really the confines that they have to operate in. But they could have used, they had large SUVs, there were several of them there. They could have used that to block that dead end street. If that violates department policy, Newcastle Police Department policy, then you leave him an out. You leave him an egress where he can leave and you arrest him later. The object is to investigate. You know who he is. You have the tag number. You know what street his mother lives on. He gave you the house she lives at. You arrest him later. But what you do not do is dispatch a death sentence because a person doesn't want to be stopped and they decide to flee from a car stop. And as many shots rang out, shooting directly through the driver's side window, the only thing you can be thinking when you are pulling the trigger of your service weapon is to kill whoever's on the business end of your gun. And that is not the appropriate response for someone who just doesn't want to be stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that the officials also yesterday said that, well, they haven't drawn any conclusions yet, but to see if any protocol was violated. They've had the tape for 8 weeks. How could they not know if protocol was broken?
I did hear the lieutenant definitely use very artfully chosen words when describing what we were going to see, prior to the link playing the actual video. And quite frankly, I think that anybody who watches that in the police department or just any connection with law enforcement knows there were several policies violated of any police department, of law enforcement, but there was policy violated of decency and morality and humankind. And that is when someone is trying to leave a scenario. Remember, as police officers, it is not to put yourself in a critical situation and then shoot yourself out of it. It is to investigate, and you can make an arrest later. That was a perfectly plausible method of continuing. They didn't do that.
No.
Well, when it comes to, because we have here for Delaware, it says that lethal force is justified when an officer believes, quote, it is immediately necessary for the purpose of protecting the officer against the use of unlawful force by the other person on the present occasion. I guess if they felt like they were in danger, even though the car was veering off to the side, they didn't know if he could turn around or do something. Is that maybe what they were thinking? Like, hey, we're on foot, he's in a car and he's trying to get away.
No, what they were thinking, Alex, is exactly what they wrote, which is they understand that is the justification for use of force, what you just read. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the initial report was written that the car was headed toward them, because that's what it would have to do. If you drive away the way in which he did the first time, he drove away from officers. In this particular scenario, coming out of the dead-end street, he was trying to veer his vehicle away from officers to evade capture. That does not qualify, nor are you immune from prosecution for shooting a person under those circumstances. So the initial report was written, contextually speaking, in the spirit of what you just read. I have to create an emergent, imminent danger scenario. That's why they wrote it, that he was driving toward them.
Okay, can I just real quickly, because the tweets will be coming. Mm-hmm. If he just complied with the officers, this wouldn't have happened.
That is not the standard. If you just comply, you'd be alive. Because if he didn't comply, which he did not, what should have happened was he should have been hauled into a court of law. He should have been prosecuted and given whatever jail sentence a judge thought appropriate to rehabilitate him and have him atone for his behavior. But I assure you the sentence would have never been death. He would have never been publicly humiliated like that or killed. His family wouldn't be setting up an estate for his dead body. They wouldn't be doing that if he had been arrested. So just for people to say, well, if he had complied, the officers wouldn't have to illegally dispatch lethal force.
Mm-hmm. Shaka, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Mike, Alex, thank you both.
Got it. We'll be right back.